all in this new session, GRC, Governance, Risk and Compliance. In today's session, we are going to go more in detail about these three aspects that are very important for any organization, whether it could be small or a big one. It could be an educational institute, it could be a company, or it could be a small outfit or any organization for that matter. Everybody is bound by these three things, and then we are going to go over in detail in this 30-minute webinar. About 15 minutes I'm going to take to go over the theory aspect, and then we are going to spend some time in looking at the easy one GRC system in detail. Just a little bit introduction about Easy One and EasyLib. We are a company based at Bangalore. We are providing software for education institutes for last 25 years. We are very thankful to our 700 customers, and especially the 300 customers who are using our latest EasyLib 6.4a or Easy One 7.2a cloud version for their library or the college administration. So both of these products and platforms are cloud-based and ready to use it. You can start using it within a week of the order. So that's the speed that we like to bring it, and our commitment to you is three of them. The one is superior product. We would like to give you the best of the best product that should be available to you all. And the second goal we have is reliability and quality. So that means the software should work under the stress, under heavy load, and then it should give you the comfort feeling. And the third one is the continuous innovation, where the software should be continuously modified based on what's happening in the world. And you are seeing today's webinar is one such thing where we find that GRC is one thing that every organization requires, and that's why we invested heavily on building this platform. In this webinar, I'm going to go over more in this detail about this specific module in Easy One system. Okay. So let's see, what is this GRC all about? Many of you may be hearing this first time, and the GRC stands for Governance, Risk and Compliance. So all of us, all of the organization, pretty much everybody is bound and governed by the various entities. For example, if it happens to be a company, we are bound by the regulations established by the Registrar of Companies, and we need to follow the accounting standards that are audited by the chartered accountants. We need to follow the processes that are established by the Provident Fund Organization, the ESI, employee state insurance, and then there is a professional tax. There is a GST and many more organizations. We are all bound by these rules and regulations. So the first one is the governance, talks about establishing the policies, processes, and the decision-making structures within your organization. In the next slide, I am going to go over in detail on how this matters in the educational segment. The second is the risk management. That's pretty every organization needs to track the risk that can happen. Okay, it could be as simple when you are traveling. When you are riding a motorcycle, you reduce the risk of an injury by wearing a helmet. That is as simple as that. You are managing the risk over here. And sometimes you avoid the risk by taking the better road. So that's another way to handle the risk. So similarly, in your organizations, you need to do a complete thorough tracking, identification, tracking, analysis, and management of the risks. And the third one is the compliance. The compliance, many organizations want you to follow the rules and regulations established by them. Okay, so in case of the companies, the regulators or the compliance, we need to be in sync with the ones that are established by ROC, the GST department, and many more. And in the next slide, I have the list of the items that many educational institutes you are bound to be following the compliance standards established by them. So governance in the education institute, the governance is important in case of purchase processes. So you are an organization having about a few hundred staff and a few thousand students. You are purchasing the items, lakhs or even crores of rupees of worth of items. So it's very important that you have a solid purchase process in place. And let's see what happens if you don't have the purchase in process. Then you have the risk of somebody who is at the management level giving the order to somebody who he likes without evaluating the doing the analysis of whether it's the best product or not. So that's why it's important that you have the purchase process in place. Staff hiring, that is another important thing wherein your organization wants to attract the best of the talent here. Even student interview process, who you are granting the admission. So all these you need to follow the processes. You need to establish a governance structure, how the staff hiring is going to be done, what kind of test you are going to take, what kind of interview you are going to do, and what kind of the governance policies you have with respect to the promotion, disciplinary action, and all that. So that is the governance. Then you have the evaluation process, publication process, expense approvals, and so on. Because when somebody wants to publish a paper, there is an APC article publishing charges involved, and then who you are going to pay and who you are not going to pay. Again, you need a process established for the governance over here. So that's why this is G stands for the governance in any organization. Next is the risk management. As we automate many things, the risk is multifold right now. When it was all pen and paper, the primary risk that an organization could have with respect to the data was the data theft, the physical theft of the files, or it could be the risk of the fire. But when it comes to the totally, when everything is electronic and you have so many Excel sheets spread out all over the institute, hundreds of the staff have the data of all the students in your organization, right? That's a high risk. How you are going to control that? That risk you have to identify and manage that risk. Second is the financial management that could happen. How you are going to control that financial thing? Those, there is something called Sarbanes-Oxley regulations in US that have followed, where the person who has the checkbook of an organization should not have the authority to sign the check. It's as simple as that, because if the person has both authority to carry the checkbook and the authority to sign, he or she may issue the check to anybody, right? So, or if, so to prevent that risk, what they do is they came up with that regulation where the person who is carrying the check will not have the authority to sign the check. So at least the true checks you are putting out over here. That's a kind of risk management. Then there is the cyber security, hacking of education institute. That's prevailing now. Today, if you look at the cyber security reports, 40% of all the cyber attacks today are happening in the educational institutes, because the hackers know that they are very vulnerable and a huge amount of data is available. So that risk that you need to mitigate over here. Then there is an operational disruption in terms of the servers, how well your servers are protected. Are you keeping a server in a room that is not locked, or are you going to invest heavily on the multiple layers of this security in your place, or you are getting a cloud service? So the server's operational risk, right? That is something that need to be handled. Then there is a compliance violation. So that's a major risk that you have got. For example, anybody, many colleges give this ID card, right? ID card has the student date of birth in that. That's a high risk over there, because if the student loses the ID card, his name, address, phone number, email ID, and the date of birth is everything available. So anybody who gets that ID card may simply call the bank, tell that I am the so-and-so student, this is my date of birth, this is my address and all that, change my password. So that's a high risk over here. So that's why it's important that every education institute thoroughly reviews all the risks that are over at your organization and make sure that you handle that. That's the risk that Easy One provides you to handle that this entire risk management process. And when it comes to the compliance, you are bound by the rules and regulations by the multiple organizations, and sometimes you may not even know what all the rules and regulations. That's why it's important that you thoroughly track. Some of the notable ones that you are bound by these regulations are these UGC, right? We know that there is a AICT and VTU for the engineering colleges. When it comes to the medical colleges, we have got the NMC, earlier it was MCI. So now we have the Medical Council of India, right? Then there the NAC is there, NBA is there for accreditation, and NIRF for the ranking. And there are certain things that you may not be even aware on storing the data in the computer. That is something called GDPR, the Global Data Protection Regulation. There is a HIPAA regulation that is especially applicable for the medical records. Then there is a financial audits over there. So the wide variety of the things are to be handled in the compliance. Though that is the reason why we at Easy One thought that this is one particular module that you require for your organization. So we have invested on these things and bringing this system for you. Now let's go to the next slide over here. It says what all easy one GRC offers for you. The answer is very simple. It breaks the entire GRC into the three parts. First, it provides the governance module, helps you define the different governance structures for purchase, staff, evaluation, publication, expense. This is some of them we put, but you may have 20 of them. You will be able to track all those governance that you need to. You can maintain those policies very easily in our system, make it available to the students and the concerned staff over here. Then there's a centralized risk management system where you and your departments and the faculty can sit down and then identify the risk number one, risk number two. Is there a fire risk? Is there a theft risk? Is there data protection, data leakage risk over here? What happens if a key employee leaves over here? How are you going to make sure that the passwords are not forgotten? How are you going to make sure that if a device is lost in the organization, that the laptop is stolen, the data is not compromised? So those are the kind of the risks that you can track in easily. Then there is the compliance tracking and monitoring that we went over, right? UGC, AICT, VDU, VMC, MCI, or rather NMC, NAC, NBA. So you can track the compliance expectation from each of these organizations. Everything you can track. You can build the workflow. You have the approvals. You can integrate this along with the service desk or the grievance management in system easily, or the relationship management within the system, wherein the whole process can be approved, maintained, and you will be able to track the progress. You have lots of dashboards and the reports available. There is an opportunity to collaborate. You'll be able to track those controls. And most importantly, if a risk happens, you track that risk. Because if you do not track that particular incident that has happened, it has the chances of coming up again and again. And you can remember that every big fire might have started with one single small fire. So to prevent the big fire, it's very important that you track every small issue that happens, and Easy One provides that ability to track those incidents. You get the alerts, you get the notification, and then of course you have the different role-based access and workflow management for your entire risks, compliance, risks, and regulatory and the governance system. Okay. Now, so those are the ones what Easy One offers. Let's say if you do not have the risk GRC framework in your place, you are running into this risk over here. No centralized central government. Nobody knows what are the rules, regulations, policies over here. Nobody knows what kind of risks are there, what kind of compliance you are missing. And the cost of compliance, to comply, it may cost about 1,000 rupees. If you are not compliant, that particular organization will come back and say that, okay, this is the one that you are not compliant, and this is the penalty, this is the interest, and this is the additional penalty. And they may ask you to come to and appear and all that kind of things. That are many organizations. So it is just simply not worth the risk not to implement the GRC. So it's very important. Maintaining this GRC will help you remove all the obstacles. It will automate the things, otherwise you will end up with doing the manual work, manual policy. Sometimes it's done, sometimes it's not done. You don't know what's happening in the organization. All that things will be there. So that's why not having the GRC system in place is the biggest risk itself that any organizations you may have in your organization if not having this GRC system. Now let's see who all is involved in the GRC. Everybody in the organizations can be involved in the GRC. For example, the leadership, the trustees of the organization, the principal, the academic coordinator, the dean over there. So they define what are the, how this governance is there, what kind of oversight is there, what kind of policies are there, how we are going to track, how we are going to measure them, how we are going to, what actions we are going to take in each of them. So they provide the leadership and the mentoring over there. And then there is a compliance officer who is responsible for the compliance. Just like you have a quality department and there is a dean of quality, you probably need to have a GRC officer in your organization who will make sure that entire organization, the university, the college, the trust is compliant with all of these expectations. As I said earlier, you can see here how many of them you are going to keep a track. It's just a huge, huge, huge number over here as the organization becomes bigger. So that's why many organizations have a compliance officer who will use the system, make sure that organization is entirely compliant over here. Then there is an academic coordinator who will do their respective parts in their things. And now, as we implement these IT systems and hundreds of systems are there, of course, when you go with Easy One, you don't have to have hundreds of systems. You can rely on Easy One, which is an integrated system for your multiple requirements. In the absence of that, you have multiple systems doing this, and the IT head's role is even more important to make sure that the systems are available all the time, the data security is taken care, and the proper reporting is given over here. And there are many different people who need to perform those different roles and responsibilities over here based on your organization. So net, when you have the GRC system in place, you are going to have the benefit of strengthened framework because you know you have done your homework, and that leaves less a chance of any surprises over there coming up over here. You have done the groundwork related to the risk visibility and the risk mitigation. And the risk visibility, if there are 10 risks, what are the those 10 risks? That could be that could be there in an organization itself. Make sure that you are taking care of that particular risk. For example, in a server room, if you identify that one of the risk is related to theft, you probably put an additional door in place, or you put a door along with this ID card access over there. Definitely the chances of the theft have dramatically come down over here. That's why this risk identification is important. And when you do everything, you don't have to worry too much about this other organizations asking and coming and tell that this is not done, this is not done, this is not done, because you are already prepared, and it gives you a peace of mind. The investment on Easy One GRC may be a few thousands, or if you are a very large organization, it may be a few lakhs. But I will tell you, it will save you a lot of time and effort and reduces the headache that you may face if you do not have this GRC. And how to implement this GRC? Very simple. I am going to go into the actual GRC module and then show that the system is ready. You just tell us to deploy, we will deploy for you. Then next, we will sit with you to work on defining this governance framework, identify these institutional risks and controls, then configure this Easy One GRC system. So that is a major work that has to be done one time, then it's all in the automatic mode. Whenever the things are not done, it will send an alert. Whenever something is due, it will send an alert. If the person who has to do has not done it, it will send him a reminder, it will send his manager a reminder, then even his manager also. So before the other organizations come and ask you why you have not done, the software itself alerts you saying that these are the 5 things that you have not done, please complete immediately. So that kind of tracking is available within Easy One system. Then you have got the multiple stakeholders training, of course, because those are the ones who are using it. And after that, it's just a smooth flow over here. Of course, it does require annual periodical review because the risk next year could be different from the previous year, right? So you need to do the groundwork on that. But once you do this one framework, one groundwork 1 year, the same can be used again and again every year with a little bit of modification. And let me confidently tell you, the whole GRC system implement for your organization usually should not take more than 4 weeks when you go with Easy One. Okay. All right. So now let's go into the Easy One over here. By the way, before I go into the actual the screens over here, our goal is strengthening the governance, managing the risk, and ensuring compliance. These are the goals that we have kept while giving you the GRC module for you. And it definitely helps you reduce a lot of heartburn at a later point of time and ensures you a transparent, accountable, resilient organization building is what you can do with Easy One. Okay, so without further delay, now what we are going to do, we are going to the actual screen over here. Now it's a 3:20 already, so just 10 minutes left. I'm going to go straight into the module of GRC. How do you access GRC? When you deploy Easy One system. By the way, Easy One is a comprehensive system for your organization. Does everything starting from the admission, pre-admission, admission, student information, staff information, timetable, attendance, exams, and all the way till the placement and alumni management. And it has got multiple things. The sales desk is there, student relationship management is there, service desk, grievance management is there, transport management is there, academic administration related many functions are there, learning management is included, and of course there is a big library automation software which is sold by, offered by the name EasyLib for you all. So it's an integrated package here, and one of the modules in this is the GRC, and this is governed by the access. Only a certain people who you think should have access will have access to this GRC model. The very first step, what you are going to do in this GRC governance, define the policies that you are going to have in our organization. Here, say for example, in our company, when we are feeding the test data, we define this. What is the work from office work policy, work from home policy, cloud backup policy, communication policy? This is for an organization that we have built, and you can simply go here, add a new policy description, all those things you can add here. You can simply upload a file, or you can directly enter this data related to how you are going to govern that thing over here. So you can have the purchase policy, you can have the hiring policy, you can have the evaluation policy, the termination policy, the staff welfare policy, purchase policy, and many more things you can have here. So for example, if I click on this communication policy view, and this is the policy that we have maintained over here, right? It's may seem simple, but I will tell you this is very important that you maintain this over here. Say for example, EasyLib backup guidelines. So we have all these backup guidelines documented here. We make sure that every person who joins our organization goes through this policy and signs saying that, okay, I have gone through this and understood this. And there is an implementation evaluation through the EasyLib quiz system over here. So that way, when somebody joins an organization, not only they go through this GRC document for our organization, they are also expected to clear that particular test over here in the assessment module here. So similarly, there is a work from home policy. What is the policy here? So like this, for your organization, you should be able to maintain multiple policies over here. Okay, that is the G governance part. This is just the, one of the things that we have got an easy one is that we try to simplify the very complex thing over here into a simple system. So today I'm very thankful to all of our customers because you have liked our approach of making the complex things into the simple. As the name indicates, easy one, it should make everything very simple for you. So this is the policy list that you are going to maintain within EasyLib under that GRC module. The second is the risk. What kind of risk you are going to have it? Say for example, one of the risks that you have got in an organization is could be the fire risk. Okay, so fire risk, and then how you are going to maintain, who is, within organization, because Easy One is built for the entire university. You are going to be able to track for every institute over here what kind of fire, what kind of risk it is, who is going to be the owner, whether it's a likelihood. Oh no, this is very important. How often the fire can happen? It may not happen quite often. So that's why the likelihood is almost 1 or 0, but impact is 5. Because if there's a fire, that's a huge impact. So that's why there is a, likelihood is 5. So the impact is 5. On the other hand, if there is a likelihood of 5 and the impact is 5, that's the highest score over here. That's the high amount of risk that you need to address immediately. So now there is a risk level status, whether it's open, in progress, which is the one that is related to within EasyLib. There is a software related one. You can track that also. And when you are going to review this particular thing over here, and then simply add this particular GRC. This, you are maintaining the risk here. You added this like this. Very simply, you can order all the risks over here. You can view it. You can give certain people only the access to maintain that particular risk. You can have the access to a lot more people to view that particular risk and how it is going to be handled here. That is the risk management over here. I will tell you the risk management area is very complex here. Many more screens are in the pipeline, and I can tell you confidently and then very happily that once you buy this GRC module for the next 2 years, we will give all the enhancement that we do into the GRC without any additional cost for you. So that's our commitment to you. So the next C part, compliance part over here. What are the compliance kind of organizations? You have the Companies Act regulation, there is a tax filing regulation, labor laws, other CSR. These are the regulations that a company should follow. Okay, and who are the regulators? These are the regulators. MCA, Ministry of Company Affairs, is a regulator. CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes, is a regulator. GST Department is a regulator. ESIC, Provident Fund, many. These are the regulations over here. And when you click on this, you will be able to see their contact details and all those things here. And then if you want to add, modify, delete, you will simply maintain all this data here. So first we defined the category of the regulators that you have got for the with respect to the compliance. Then second is who are the people who will be regulating. And the third is what are they asking you to do this? Say for example, board meeting, that's a regulatory thing. Every 3 months, the board meeting should happen for every trust, society, company, and everybody. You need to neatly maintain the board minutes of the meeting here. That's the regulation over here. So this screen helps you maintain all those different regulations that you need to maintain. And then there is a schedule. The software can help you build the schedule. Say for example, FSSAI, this is the regulatory. You need to renew this business license every year or so. Okay, so you can build this regulation over here. So FSSI, there could be the NMC filing. Board meetings is every quarter. Disclosure by the directors as and when they buy or sell the shares of a company, they need to file it. That is another regulation you have got over here. So multiple organizations come up with regulations, and in this system you will be able to track all the regulations or the compliance requirement for an education institute or any organization. Say for example, if MCI or the NMC, the medical council, right, asks you to file this thing periodically, no problem. You define NMC under this category of the educational compliance category, and NMC will be one of the organizations, and what all they are expecting, you add it, and then you will add all the schedules over here, and the software will take care of sending the reminders to whenever that is not done. Whenever this compliance is met, you simply go here and then change the status as instead of pending, you make it as completed. That's it, as simple as that. So that way you get a complete clear dashboard over here. And this is the document, because when you submit it, when you are submitting, you are not going to write an email, you are going to take a document. Either you are going to print it and submit, I print it, sign it, seal it, and then scan it and then attach it over here. Or if you are having an email, if it is sufficient, you can attach that email. Any of the document you can clearly track within the system. And as far as the dashboard is concerned, huge, many amounts of the dashboards are being built over here. One of the dashboard that I wanted to go is related to the service desk, where there is a huge amount of data is available. In the last 3 months, last 1 year, we have received about 1,218 tickets, and 24 tickets are currently open. Similarly, for the GRC module, you are going to get a clear dashboard that tells you what kind of the compliance are pending, what have you completed, what is not completed, and who is the owner, and activities by each owner, and so on. So net, this GRC system may be the first time you are hearing, but let me tell you, this is one of the most important things that you need to have at your organization. And implement this easy one GRC system, and I can confidently tell you it will help you run your organization more transparent, with a better transparency and better accountability, and it should be resilience to handle multi-year, decades, or if not centuries, right? So it should be able to run multiple decades without any hindrances. So if you would like to get, or rather when you would like to get, because it's not the question of if, it's only the question of when you want to get the GRC system, simply call us. My number, Vasu Deshpande, my number is there, phone number, email is there, or you can reach Sahana and we will help you get started with the GRC module. Thank you very much for joining this webinar, and I look forward to the questions. And Sahana, you may stop this recording, and I'll be happy to take the questions from everybody. Thank you and have a wonderful day.